Welcome to a very special episode of the Breaking Barriers podcast. I am Gina Polisak, and today I will be your host. I am joined with my co-host Kelly and our very amazing guest Brandi, Mama to Faith. June 1st was Cancer Survivors Day, and we wanted to spotlight one of our very own trisomy 18 warriors who is also a cancer survivor. Certain cancers have a higher prevalence for people with trisomy 18, and it is important to highlight this topic, raise awareness, and ensure people are getting properly screened. The ESA strongly encourages anyone listening that may not already be getting routine screenings for cancers to speak to their genetics team about this topic. We hope you enjoy hearing this inspiring story of strength, resilience, and faith. Now I will hand it off to Brandi to tell us a little bit about herself, her family, Faith's diagnosis, what she was diagnosed with, and just a bit more about their family before we jump into some specific questions.
Oh boy. Hi, I'm Brandi. I'm Faith's mom. I am from central Pennsylvania. Is that what you'd call it, Kelly? The Pennsylvania Wilds.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Wilds. I didn't become a nurse until 2011. And I am glad I became a nurse because it came in very handy. My husband his name is Derek Spiker. He grew up on a farm, loves the woods, loves trees. He makes his own syrup. He works at a sawmill.
Loves four-wheelers.
Four-wheelers. Oh yeah. If it's an outdoors thing, he's definitely all up into it. He's very down to earth and he's very simple. I always say between the two of us, he is my rock to my crazy. And because I'm such the overthinker and the overanalyzer and researching and down rabbit holes, and he's the one that sits back and says, "It'll be okay. Everything's going to be all right." And we found out how much our two personalities would complement each other and help each other out when I found out I was pregnant with Faith, who's my one and done, first and only.
I said that. No, I have two.
No. We definitely made that decision permanent. No, Faith's enough for me. I'm good. So I found out I was pregnant with her in 2018. And I remember in nursing school hearing trisomy 18 for like maybe 2 seconds on a slide. And basically incompatible with life, and then they moved on to all the other things, and that was about it. That's all I can ever remember. So when we were both handed this diagnosis of trisomy 18, on one hand, no one ever really heard of it. A couple people thought that maybe the doctors had messed up, like there's no such thing as this. What are you talking about? Because it's such a rare condition. But once you enter into this world, you find out it's not so rare after all. How about it?
Right.
It's like literally walking into a different world. A magical and wonderful world. Faith she is my cute but complicated peanut. That's what I call her. Cute but complicated. She is bright-eyed and a little schemer with the cutest little smile that'll light up a whole room. She is the sweetest, bestest thing in the whole wide world, and I wouldn't change one single chromosome about her. And she's changed literally everything. She's changed everything about me, about Derek. I think right down to our DNA. I mean, spiritually, emotionally, everything. She flipped our world upside down. I love it.
She's so
Did
cute.
I cover it all?
Yeah.
Can you tell us the type of cancer she was diagnosed with and at what age she was diagnosed with it?
Faith was diagnosed with Wilms tumor, which Wilms tumor is a type of kidney cancer. She was 1 year and 7 months when she was diagnosed.
Okay. And for our listeners, Wilms tumor is one of two cancers that are more prevalent with trisomy 18. And it is highly suggested that warriors get screened for this via, routine ultrasounds and stuff up to a given age. Now, the age is dependent on kind of your team's interpretations based off of the specific kiddo and whatnot. I've seen varying ages, so my philosophy is push for as long as possible to get tested. But you may hear different ages kind of thrown out there on when screening should or shouldn't stop. So it's kind of all up for interpretation, but we like to say, it can never hurt to just take a look. So push for as long as possible to get those screenings done. So just a side note there that Wilms tumor is one of those cancers, and that is what Faith had. So Brandi, kind of given that, what was kind of like the initial treatment plan, and when was she officially able to, you know, be without the cancer? What age?
So her initial treatment plan so she was diagnosed in August of 2020. And Dr. Julia Mead, who's our oncologist at UPMC Pittsburgh Hospital, Children's Hospital, she gave us a breakdown of the chemo that she was going to get, the time frames. Like, she had a calendar, and it was timed and planned out of when she would get what. And dactinomycin and vincristine are the two chemo medications that Faith was going to receive. And they told us at the 6-week mark, we would do another MRI to evaluate the tumor. So Faith, when she was diagnosed, she had a 2-inch ping pong ball sized tumor on her left kidney. At the 6-week mark, we would do another MRI, and depending on how the tumor would respond to the chemo, we would decide at either the 6-week mark or the 12-week mark that she would lose a part of, if not her whole kidney. It was for sure going to happen either at the 6-week mark or the 12-week mark. And then she would finish out the rest of her chemo for the 4 months. And it ended up being that her last chemo treatment was on her 2nd birthday, January 15th, 2021. And which everybody was like, man, that's a terrible way to spend her birthday. And I was like,
Right.
no. This is the best birthday present ever. Like, the last chemo, sweet. I'm celebrating all the way. And then we keep up because she has had the history of the Wilms tumor. Every 3 months, she gets ultrasounds. So from the time she was 2 up until February of next year, because she turns 7, the protocol at the UPMC Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh is up to the age of 7. And then we do our last ultrasound. And then at that point, as long as that ultrasound is clear, she graduates from oncology. She's done. And then we can do
Yay.
another little celebration.
Right. So to kind of backtrack a little bit, so Faith was already beating the odds, like from the moment she was born and from the time you got the diagnosis of trisomy 18. Can you describe those early days and what it was like to hear, that she survived being taken off the ventilator?
When the early days that was a roller coaster ride. It was a roller coaster ride. It was like when she was initially put on the ventilator. So she was born on a Tuesday. She did really great until Wednesday afternoon, and then she started developing these apneic episodes. They told us it was central apnea. And then they moved from the CPAP, BiPAP, all the way up to the ventilator come Thursday. She was 25% dependent on the ventilator that Thursday. And as the time went on and the few days went on, she became more and more dependent. By Saturday, she was 100% fully dependent on the ventilator. My husband and I discussed, like, everything that the doctors had said was true. That's how we felt anyway, that trisomy 18 really isn't that compatible with life after all. And we were heartbroken, but at the same time, we knew in our hearts we had given her the best chance. We did what we could as parents, but where we live and our distance between a hospital that could take care of a child like her wasn't fair. So we chose to discontinue the ventilator. And the doctor, the NICU doctor who we had, was absolutely positively amazing. I will never say anything terrible about him. He loved Faith. He really did. He had us sign the DNR, and he told us within 5 minutes of discontinuing the ventilator, she'll pass away. So my parents stayed, me and Derek stayed, and we had this one nurse who really she bonded with Faith from the moment she set eyes on her. And she came in on her off time to sit with us. And she even made a little sign that said, "Too beautiful for this earth." And we were listening to music. They discontinued the ventilator. We were all crying and taking our turns holding her because we figured this is our last moments with her. This is it. And we're kind of like looking at the clock, like counting down the grains of sand that she has left in this world. But I also remember looking at her and holding her and her eyes just lighting up. And I said to Derek, I said, something's not quite right. Like, for a child that's supposed to be dying, she's got an awful lot of life in her eyes. She was looking around, and we're looking at the clock, and we're like, 5 minutes turned into 5 hours, turned into 9 days at the NICU, all in all. We just sitting there and watching her take care, like, just take in everything. And we were like, this isn't something's this isn't making any sense. We were overjoyed, relieved. And there was a lot going on in that moment because my brother had passed away 18 days before Faith was born, and we felt like the burden of my parents just buried my brother, and now they're going to have to bury their granddaughter. And and when they called the next morning to see how she was, and we could tell them that she made it through the night. You could hear the hesitancy in their voice. They didn't want to hear it. But we were just amazed and awestruck. And the best way that I can describe that whole experience when she got taken off the ventilator and getting through that first 5 minutes and the first few hours was Abraham and Isaac. Abraham was willing to trust God so much that he was willing to give his only son back to God. Yes. And that's how we felt. Like, okay, you gave us this child. We did all the things that we were supposed to do. And now you're telling us it's time to give her back. Okay. And it was like, you could just hear God saying, no, 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 you get to keep her after all.
Nah, you keep her.
Yeah, now you get to keep her. And I was like, man, that's it. Literally, I've said it since then. It's Abraham and Isaac.
Yeah,
That's how I felt.
that is
That's
that exact
I
story.
I did not I did not know that part of Faith's story. That's incredible. I was literally tearing up while you were talking. Um,
We could
how
be here
did
all day, Gina, talking about the things that Faith's
I'm
life.
sure. How did you process the medical label incompatible with life when you saw such strength and fight and you're telling us that you're looking at the clock because you're told once we remove the ventilator, like she's going to have 5 minutes or less, how did you process all of that? Like seeing the life in her, like you said, and seeing that like, okay, the doctors are wrong. Like what were your feelings during all of that?
This kid is a miracle. That was my feeling. God gave me an extremely precious gift. There is something special about her. And girl, you better get ready. That's what I felt. Girl, you better get ready because your life is about to change. And I always laugh because I said when I was pregnant with her, And I would pray to God every single night, just let her be born and let her live. Like, she doesn't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to be healthy, and I'll do whatever you want. If you let me have this child, I'll do whatever you want. God doesn't make deals, but he does know. He does have a sense of humor, and he also knows that, sure, this is going to make things a lot easier for both of us. And I realized I was stepping up into a part of my life that I would have never ever imagined where I'd be today. She is my calling, she is my purpose, and she's changed literally everything.
Yeah, I felt that for sure. So kind of moving into the, the kind of some of the Wilms tumor questions. So what led you to push for cancer screening so early? And I know that part of your story is like some of those, suspicions and questions being dismissed. So how did you feel when your concerns were initially dismissed for those screenings?
So, what led me to push for the screening so early is I always tell everybody I am an LPN with a Google degree, and I'm working on my master's in trisomy 18. And with all the things that the maternal fetal medicine doctor had said to us, you're going to miscarry at any point. And then as I got closer to the due date, she kept saying, well, she's going to be born stillborn or she's going to die soon after. I mean, it was just, and I remember looking at the ultrasounds and her lungs were breathing, her heart is beating, like her major organs that would maintain and sustain life were functioning. And I kept asking her, I don't understand why. What's she going to die from?
Mhm.
So I learned early on, start doing your own research, start Googling, Google deeper, not just Wikipedia. Don't read the first headline that comes up on your Google search. For goodness sake, dive and dive deeper. And I finally stumbled across trisomy.org. And they have a little handbook that you can print out, and it said
Mhm.
about the screenings. And I thought, well, I'm going to ask anyway. And I do also believe at that point, that is when I was also talking to Kelly, who
Mhm.
I didn't even know existed, because when I talked to the MFM while I was pregnant, I had asked her, are you sure there aren't any other trisomy 18 children alive? She said no. Are you sure my child doesn't have mosaicism? I've read about it. Oh, there's no way your child will have mosaicism. It's far too rare. Your child already has a rare chromosome defect. Mosaicism just isn't even a possibility.
Yeah, that's what they said to me when I asked, when they came and told me that she had trisomy 18. I asked what type, and they actually told me, there is no type, it's all. And I'm like, well, that's not what I've been reading.
Oh.
Right? And it was you and another trisomy mom and her daughter who initially had reached out to me and introduced me into the Facebook groups, the support groups, and they were mentioning about it on there. So that's what made me start thinking, all right, I'm going to take this information. And we had our first visit with the genetics doctor. So I asked her, like, I already have this child and I'm reading all this information on the different sites. Because once you start getting that little piece of fact, and then you can start putting the facts in your Google search, and then you start seeing the articles pop up and saying there is a higher risk associated with trisomy 18 for Wilms tumor and hepatoblastomas. So when I took it into the geneticist, she had initially told me, no, you do not need a screening abdominal ultrasound because trisomy 18 has no higher risk than any other child to develop childhood cancers. It's less than 1%. And I had been smart enough to print it all out, and I showed her the information and I said, this says otherwise. And then I let her have it and we left. So it was frustrating, and it was kind of like a reality check. When you start noticing a pattern of all these doctors telling you that it's going to be this one way,
Mhm.
And then you have this child who is like, hold my
The
bottle
other
and
way.
watch this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're like, I have a tendency to believe the child that exists.
Right.
Right.
So that's, I felt, and then I said to Derek, I said, I think I know how this is going to go. We're going to have to start being smarter and we're going to have to fight. She has, I had said from the beginning, as long as she's fighting, I'm going to fight right with her at the best way that I know how. That girl has more strength and more resilience than I could ever have in my entire life. I could not go through 3/4 of what she went through. But what I can do is research and I can stand up for her and I can sit there and stand up to the doctors who I
Right.
initially respect, you know,
That's
especially
the
with,
hard part too. Is like especially when you have worked in the medical field,
yes,
you have a different respect for them because you have seen what
they're
they have
on a,
done. Yeah.
yes, they're up on this pedestal
And
and
then you're like,
they,
what?
yeah, and you're like, you have all this access and all this information and all these resources, and you're so smart. I've seen you be smart.
Yeah.
And then they do something like this, and you're like, wait a
You're like,
second.
what?
Did you miss this
Yeah.
part? So yeah, frustrated, I guess. Frustrated.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, okay, Brandy, you need to start putting your big girl panties on and you're gonna have to start being an adult.
My
And you're
big
gonna have to fight like a mama.
my big question through it all is like, um, why aren't you just trying? Because you would with anybody else.
Right.
That was just like all of my thoughts toward the doctors is like, why aren't you just trying? I mean, what are you gonna lose?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one of them telling me, well, she has trisomy 18, she's gonna die anyway.
Oh yeah. They've
And I
said
was
it to
like,
me.
When I also feel like too, that's why, I mean, because I think about those interactions and like you're a nurse, you know to research, you know how to use resources. Think of all the people that don't have those
That
skills,
knowledge.
and that's why like the statistics are so bad because like we were talking about, doctors are on pedestals, like everybody is just taught, whether you work in the medical field or not, like people are like, I go to a doctor to get my healthcare checked and they keep me alive, like everybody is just taught that like you respect them and that they're supposed to be, very knowledgeable in that space, and
yeah.
so if you
Yeah.
don't know how to advocate and how to dig and dig and dig, like that's why the statistics are so poor. But I also feel like also why over the last 5-10 years, like things are improving because I mean, technology is
Parents are getting
improving. So
knowledgeable.
yeah, like even people that don't necessarily know how to research, like the information is easier to find because things have just advanced so much. And like obviously more providers are seeing it because there's more cases out there and like it's just crazy. But
And
um
parents are willing to talk about it. You figure way back, even, 3, 4 decades, you know, before us, there was, I say 40, so that's why I'm saying 3, 4 decades before us. But you figure those kids that were born in the 70s and the 60s that they
yeah,
didn't know what their diagnosis was. Who knows? Maybe they do have trisomy 18. They got put in homes
Mm-hmm.
and put and hid
Right
away
away.
basically. And if you had a child that was special needs, you didn't talk about it. The child was kept somewhere where they weren't out. Now we've learned to speak up and speak out because it's so validating for other parents, moms and dads. It's so validating for them to know, oh my gosh, you're going through the same thing.
yeah.
And that validation is hope when it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Definitely. So did you find like did genetics eventually call or how did kind of that transpire from there?
It was 4 months later. 4 months.
Wow.
I want to say it was like 4 months later, I think. And we got a call, and I remember the staff member saying to me, I'd like to apologize to you because you were right. Trisomy 18 does have a higher risk of developing these two cancers, Wilms tumor and hepatoblastomas. So we are going to send you the ultrasound, the screening ultrasound, and you can have it done whenever you want. And I said, sweet. Now, mind you, when we got that order, she was only in her first year. So that was the year 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the next question. Sorry, Gina.
You're good.
So when we initially got the ultrasound, it was 2019. Now, I was working in a doctor's office at the time. I had just returned back from maternity leave. And so I was working in there, and it's it's the friendly neighborhood doctor's office. So, mom, dad, she took care of family members, and we were entering into the flu season.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning of the school year, everybody starts getting sick. And Faith had developed an issue that I don't want to get into because we'll really what do you call it? Veer off the tracks on that one. She developed an issue that caused me to put in my notice at work. So I had quit my job, and it was one of those right timing issues because right about the time that I quit, which I'm pretty sure God was closing that door for me, that's when we had one of the worst flu, one of the worst pneumonia seasons that we had
Yep.
ever seen. And then what happened? Does everybody remember what happened after that?
The famous word,
Yep.
COVID.
Pandemic.
COVID.
Yep. And I was like, oh, look at that. That's great. I'll just stay home in my house and we'll just hermit
And
in
I
here.
felt the same way about Emma because I worked an awful flu season when I was pregnant with her at the hospital. And then she was born, and I had to stay home because of her. And then COVID happened. And I always thought, like, maybe that was God's way of getting even me out with a cardiac condition, was getting me to focus
Go
on
home.
Emma. Yeah, go home.
Be home and be safe and be with Emma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of
And
how I
I've
felt
always
about
thought
it.
that because I worked that horrible flu season. Like, it was rough.
That
And
was
then
bad.
and then everything happened with Emma. And then the next year was COVID.
Yeah. And I even had my supervisors call me after I had quit, and they're like, we are so we miss you, but we are so glad that you are not here.
Yeah.
Because Faith's life would seriously, because they had told us that a cold. Now, mind you, yes. So I can add this in, Gina, as a little back end note. Even a cold will kill her. How many of you heard that one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even a cold will kill her. So I decided I still had that abdominal ultrasound. And I thought, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, my child already has a rare condition. And I didn't know she had mosaicism yet. So, what are the chances of her having cancer? And I don't remember who it was, Kelly, but I remember while I was home with her in her first year, there was another little girl who was going through cancer on our support page, but I don't remember who it was. And I
I
remember sitting there
remember.
thinking, God, you've given me quite a bit with this child. I have no children experience whatsoever. I've never babysat. I had a brother 7 years younger than me. That's it. And then you gave me the Olympic version. So let's not do cancer.
Yeah.
Please, please,
Yeah.
please.
I can't
Let's not.
remember who that was.
Yeah, I remember bits and pieces, and I remember seeing the post, but I don't remember who it was, and I just remember crying and begging God, just not that, not that. I will handle anything else you throw at me, and just not cancer. That's a horrible thing, to watch your kid like that be sick. And So I put the ultrasound aside because of the flu season and the pneumonia season and the pandemic, and things obviously were getting shut down. Elective things were getting put aside and
Shut
all
down,
that.
yeah.
And we just kind of hunkered down and stayed, uh, you know, within our bounds. And we ended up getting a different genetics doctor, and it was like her 1 year follow-up. And the doctor had said to me, Brandi, I know how hard you fought to get this screening ultrasound. You need to get it done. Finish it and follow it through. And I remember her saying, follow it through. And I was like, man, she must know me.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, it seems silly. Like, what are the chances? The chances that she's going to have cancer, But I thought, you know what? She was really nice with me. She talked with me. We had a really good conversation about trisomy 18, a good in-depth conversation. And she's like, just get it done, schedule it, get it done. We'll even make it so that you can get it done while you have another appointment down here so you don't expose Faith twice. And I said, cool. All right, fine. I'll follow through. We'll get this done. So that's pretty much how we ended up getting the ultrasound.
I think
Can
Emma
you
was
tell
around
us?
the same age when we started.
Yeah, I think so.
I know I'm trying to think back because so Mia is like, me and Kelly were talking about this the other day. Mia is literally between Faith and Emma's age. They're like
Yeah,
all like
she's like right in the
give or
middle.
take 6 months apart from each other. So it's like, yeah, because Kelly was like, yeah, Faith is Emma's age. And I'm like, well, I could also say she's Mia's age because literally Mia's like smack dab in between. So I'm trying to remember like when I met you, but I know that I remember Faith going through the cancer treatments and stuff. So I want to say that I must have met you like right around that time. Um,
I think
but
that's
yeah,
when
it
her
just
story really blew up.
yeah, it's crazy. Like everything is that was 5 years ago. Like time
I
is
saw
just flying
Pennsylvania and
by.
I was like, because I'm like right here. I'm like, oh, somebody close.
Like I remember seeing like the 4 and the 5 year olds and stuff when Mia was born. And I'm like, wow, they're so old. And now it's like those are like our kids. They're like 4, 5, 6. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like so can you tell us about the moment that you found out that Faith had Wilms tumor? And like what do you remember most about that day?
I can almost I remember it pretty vividly. Derek and I have to give Derek so much credit because he has 2 kids to a previous marriage, and he's a really good dad. He's the best dad you can imagine for those 2 kids. And I've watched other special needs parents suffer, like their marriage suffers when they have a special needs child.
Yeah.
Derek was all in. Derek was all in 100%. He's gone. He was there with me nonstop the 9 days in the NICU. He slept in that room with me. He never left, and he goes to every single appointment. So we went down, we decided, all right. I had went on Amazon and I got the little rain thing for her stroller, and we were fully I got the masks and all the things. So we were like geared up and ready to go. And, at the time, Pittsburgh was a pretty big deal to us because that's big city. And, I know you can't see out my window, but we're living in the middle of a farm. Uh, big city stuff right there. So we went down, and she got her hearing aid that day. It was her first time she got her Baja hearing aid. And so we were having a great day with that. It was actually a back-to-back 2-day appointment. And we even were staying at a hotel room down there because she had so many appointments all at once. We saw cardiology, and he had said that, she was born with a VSD and all that. She was stable. We were literally, when we walked out of that cardiology appointment, we were on cloud 9. We were having the best day ever. And then we went for the ultrasound. And we were chit-chatting with the ultrasound tech. She was very nice. And I mean, we were having a flowing conversation, and all of a sudden you could see like this very audible change on her face. And she went silent. And we sat there, and what it felt like an eternity. She was taking pictures in complete silence. And we tried asking, like, just trying to pick up conversation, and mm-hmm. And that was it. And I went, oh, we've got problems. We walked, and she said, well, I have to show all these images to the doctor. I'll come back to see if there's anything else I need to get. And she left the room, and I looked at Derek and I said, something's wrong, man. This is danger, Will Robinson. We've got problems. And Derek, of course, in his ultimate wisdom, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. It's fine. He's like, she's got trisomy 18. She probably saw one of her little quirks or something. We know she's not anatomically correct. It was probably just an oops.
I'm actually known for saying the same thing. My mom always says, everything's fine. What I say?
Everything's not fine. So, of course, the ultrasound tech can't say anything. And they just said, if anything, your doctor will contact you with the results or whatever. So we left the room and we walked away. Got everything ready, went back to the hotel room, and oh gosh, I think I want to say within the hour, we got the phone call. And it was the geneticist who had told me, Brandi, you fought so hard to get this done. You need to follow through. And she said, it's a good thing you followed through. There is a questionable mass on Faith's kidney. We made calls and we scheduled you an emergency visit with the oncologist tomorrow because we know you have other appointments. And then she, of course, she couldn't answer any questions, and I had access to the My CHP portal. So I immediately opened it up and read all the things. And we hung up our video visit or phone call and spent the night crying. Spent the night just crying. And Derek holding me. And I said, man, what the heck? This kid's already been through so much. And now what are we going to do? She's got trisomy 18. What doctor is going to treat her with cancer? Like, for reals? Like, that's immediately your thought is,
your first
how
thought.
many doctors have said, we've had it said to us, if she needs heart surgery, you'll be hard pressed to find a cardiac surgeon who help her, just different odds and ends things that have been said to us. And I'm like, you've got a kid with trisomy 18 and now she's got cancer. They're just going to let her die. And that was how we spent our night, just in utter hopelessness, honestly. Like, what the heck? Why did we do this? And then we met Dr. Mead. So we went in the next day and we met this woman, and she's a very bright, colorful. She had on these almost neon orange heels. They looked like heels like this high. And she comes in, and of course she has a very serious conversation. She sits down with us and she says, Faith, I don't even have to do a biopsy. She has a textbook tumor on her kidney that is Wilms tumor. The one thing is that now here's the ticket. They caught it early because we did the screening ultrasound. Most Wilms tumors do not get found until they are palpable, which means you can feel the tumor through their side, like through their abdomen. That's how big the tumors get before these kids are diagnosed with Wilms tumor. So get your screening ultrasounds.
Yes.
Ours was only 2 inches. So anyway, she says this, she says Faith has kidney cancer. And I dropped the F-bomb quite a bit. I think in a random, I probably sounded like an AR at the time. I was just mind blown. And I looked at her and I said, like, what are you going to do? She has trisomy 18. And she said, and?
I love when they say that.
Like I save any other child. I'm going to treat her and we're going to beat this. And I was like, wow. I'm like, you don't even.
Thank God.
Yeah. It struck me so. Wow. Like you're going to do this. You're willing to do this. She didn't even bat an eye. She was like, well, yeah. she's a child. She has cancer. I'm a cancer doctor. Like, that's what we do. Like, I loved her personality. I was like, we jam so well. And that's when we knew we had a really good doctor on our side. And then she, of course, did forewarn all the rest of the doctors that we would deal with that I do curse like a sailor. Don't tell her any bad news. She curses like a sailor. And that's when Dr. Mead ended up being one of Faith's biggest advocates throughout the rest of her life to this day. Even
That's
though she
awesome.
doesn't have cancer anymore, she has gotten involved in Faith's cases more than once and has saved her life time and again.
Good.
That's amazing. Those are the doctors that are
Yeah.
so critical. Wow. Yeah.
I know, right? I'm trying here.
You got me crying on that one. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of emotions.
There's a lot, and you guys know that too, how many, the stories that you have to tell too, how complex they are emotionally. The up and down, the roller coaster ride of hopelessness and hopeful and being on top of the world and being in the bottomless pit.
Yeah. And you can go from one to the next in the matter of seconds. It's crazy. So how do you explain, or did you explain the diagnosis and treatments to others, especially people that, may not understand the extra layers of complexity of trisomy 18, and how that adds to the treatment plan?
Well, here's the thing. When we drove home from Pittsburgh, I called my sister-in-law and I said, we're going to have an emergency meeting. Everybody, both sides of the family needs to come now. So everybody knew it's bad news. And I literally just broke it down to them. And this is where Derek and where our personalities complement each other again. And you guys understand this. When you're in the medical world, like common medical words that you say or terminology becomes so natural to you, you forget how to break it down. Yeah. And Derek actually comes in. He can take what I say and then he simplifies it in his dumb. I hate calling him that because he is not a dumb farm boy. He's the worst oxymoron ever. He is so smart and he does not give himself enough credit. But I mean, basically, we sat the family down. It was really late at night and we told them, we made it as simple as possible because that's really heavy considering, Faith was born in 2018 or 2019. And then here is COVID and the pandemic. And now I'm about to break it to you and tell you that this child has cancer. It's a lot to process. So we just kept it simple. Faith has cancer. Let it sink in for a minute. And then we told them she has a doctor who's willing to treat her. She is going to go through chemo. Today will probably be the last day that you see her for the next 4 months or more. As for the complexities that goes along with chemo, Gina, I didn't even know the complexities of trisomy 18 and all the things that diagnosis plays into the parts. Her chemo journey with the cancer and everything was actually a learning curve for us. That's because you figure prior to her having cancer, it's like I said to you guys before, Faith was literally like to us, the Disney version of trisomy 18. At that time, she was bottle fed, ate rice flakes. She was eating up to 8 ounces of stage 2 baby food twice a day. I mean, yes, she was tiny. She was smiling. We've had nurses from my New York side of the family who had said, they teach us that trisomy 18 children can't smile. They're not able to. And I was like, excuse you? Look at this child. So she loves to smile, laugh, and giggle. She was on Pepsid and Claritin. That was her major medical, was she had GERD. Acid reflux disease and allergies. She wasn't a complicated child at all. I mean, she was physically small. She had muscle issues, but I mean, literally, she was like a regular baby, even though she was like a year and a half, but she was like my extended baby. But, we didn't learn about the complexities until the chemo journey started. That's when we really started getting a lesson in how trisomy 18 would start affecting her as a whole body. And that's when we started learning about what I call Faith, the Jenga tower. Faith is a very delicately balanced Jenga tower. And if you try to mess with one of her blocks, there's a good chance the whole tower is going to fall. Don't mess with her blocks.
I
That's
like
Mia.
that.
Like Mia.
Oh
So,
God,
yeah.
that's a good one.
I had a t-shirt and everything. I think I still have it. I'll send it to you for Mia.
Right? But we
I
can
always
put
say
one,
that
we can
Emma's a
put one on our
puzzle.
store.
I always say that Emma's a puzzle with ever-changing pieces.
Mhm.
That's what.
How about it?
Yeah. Um, so Faith's tumor disappeared 6 weeks into chemo. What was that moment like for you as her mom? Did it feel like another miracle had happened?
I literally fell down and cried. Dr. Mead comes in and pretty sure it was pink high heels that particular day. I don't know. She wears very colorful clothes. I love her. And she's such a down-to-earth doctor. I love her.
I feel like
And
as
we
an
get each other.
oncology doctor too, you need to like bright colors,
Yeah.
especially a pediatric oncology. It's just like that it just sets the tone,
Life. It brings
Yeah.
life
Yes.
into the
Right.
room. And she like bursts open the door and walks into her room. And Derek and I were waiting for because like I said, they were planning surgery for her. She bursts into the door and she's like, it's gone. And we're
You're like,
both like
what?
looking at her like, did you just lose your marbles? What's gone? And she's like, the tumor, it's gone. We did our job. We did our thing. It's gone. And we were like, and she pulls it up on her computer and she shows us the before where there's that 2-inch ping pong ball sized tumor. And she shows us today's MRI and there's nothing there. And yes, I bawled my eyes out and I said, and yes, it was an absolute miracle because I realized in that moment that this, time and time again, how many times God has really hit us with the I am with you, I am with you, I am with you all the time. We had, from the moment that she got diagnosed, we put out like basically what I thought would be a small prayer chain. And the local fundraising group here, the Hickory Grangers, sold us signs, the Prayers for Baby Faith sign, proving the power in
I
prayer.
remember those.
Now, mind you, when she got that diagnosis, we were also going through what was then one of the biggest debatable presidential campaigns that there was. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and
Oh, I forgot.
yeah, there was such division between politics. And I remember driving down the road and it didn't matter if you were blue, red, green, Democrat, Republican, whoever you were voting for at that point, there was a baby faith sign in your yard. She hit a tri-county surrounding and then some. They were even selling her signs out of state and shipping them out of state. How far the proving the power in prayer signs went. And all I could think of was when I looked at that picture on Dr. Mead's computer, I'm like, this wasn't medicine.
Yeah.
This was God. That's miracle, not medicine, man.
Yeah.
And what we later found out was through talking to different other specialists, and they kept on asking me, and they would ask me like I was stupid. Well, when did she have surgery? She never had surgery. No, when did she have a piece of her kidney removed? She never had any of her kidney removed. Are you sure she had Wilms tumor? Wow. Yes. Because it was the one doctor had said for her not to have the surgery to remove a part of, if not her whole kidney, it was unheard of for a Wilms tumor to resolve
Mhm.
like that with just chemo. So get your screening ultrasounds early.
Mhm.
Very
Yes.
early.
Yes. Yes. What was it like watching Faith ring the bell to mark the end of chemo? Was it everything you had imagined it would be?
Yes and no. I think if I would have been more, you know how you really dream about something and you dream and you dream and you dream and you can't wait for that day to come. And then the day comes and you can't believe it's that day. And it doesn't
Yeah.
really sink in until later on. I was basically walking around in a haze the whole day, you know, but it was more than what I had thought of because they knew it was her birthday that day. So they stood around and they brought her a birthday present. I had her dressed in a little second birthday dress with her little super cape and her little crown.
I love the
And
girl.
she loved her crowns. Really, she hated them. But and they sung happy birthday to her and they just made the day. I mean, it was like were throwing her not only a, goodbye cancer party, but a birthday party at the same time. They were beautiful. It was a beautiful day. And I'm glad I got it on camera. And Derek hated every second of it because he was the one who was in the video. And I even said to him, I'm like, dude, you got a choice. You can either run the video or you can walk Faith. And he was like, this is thing when he's annoyed with me. Anyway, so yeah, that's surreal, I guess would be the word.
Now, 3 years into remission, how do you reflect on, that chapter in Faith's life and in your own life?
The beginning. The beginning. We had it so easy. We had it so easy before then. But I think it was also one of those deals where you look at it and it is a constant reminder. And I still to this day say to myself, they said a cold would kill her. And she survived cancer. Not only did she survive cancer, but she had 2 septic infections during that time.
Wow.
What a tough, tough little girl. Don't ever let them try to tell you that something so little can break them because they're a lot stronger than you can imagine. And I know you guys seen that in your kids, what they
Mhm.
go through.
Amen to that. Cool. Yeah. That's all the questions I have. I mean, that's an inspiring story. I honestly am speechless.
Like I said, we could be here all day.
Yeah. And I also wore this shirt today on purpose
Faith
because
over fear.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I tell you what,
That's
that she literally lives it all the time. But what I can say is this, you know, it's not that I know that when you go through some of the other stuff you hear about the negativity with trisomy 18 and doctors. And I know we did mention it too, but the other thing is don't be so don't automatically want to start a fight with them. Don't automatically be against them. I've
yeah.
had doctors who did not believe in Faith and believed that she was going to pass away at any moment. And we're still seeing him to this day. You have to learn to gauge your doctors. This doctor was one that I knew if I kept showing up, going to prove him wrong. And now he is. I saw him look at her like a little girl for the first time, rather than just a diagnosis. There has been another doctor prior in a few years ago that I had to fire in the best way that I can describe it. He is no longer on her team because of his negligence. And I've had other doctors who have been amazing. Through Dr. Mead, She got a little bit of an eye opener too, because I would always ask her, are they trisomy 18 friendly? And she would go, of course they are. And then she also had a run-in with one of the doctors who wasn't. So she got a lesson learned. And then we met Dr. Maurer. And I will tell you, the geneticist wasn't nearly as helpful with the Edwards syndrome as the palliative care doctor who told me, you're going to need me someday. And yes, I'm a palliative care doctor, but I'm not just here for the dying. I'm here to help you give her the best quality of life that she can have. And he actually is the one that identified her as mosaic. But you have to gauge your doctors. Don't automatically want to start a fight with them because you need them. You do need those doctors just as much as they need you, but you also have to make sure that your voice is heard and do your own research. I'm not saying you can't trust anything that they say, but use your critical thinking. Use your critical thinking, and that's what saved us all the time. If you have a question, ask it. And if they don't answer it, research it. We've been told like something as simple as kidney stones don't cause UTIs. Use your thinking, use your brain, and fight.
Yeah. Amen to that. I mean, you have to find the team that works for you. And I mean, you're so right that like you can't just dismiss a doctor because I don't know, like you can change their perspective too. And ultimately, like I feel like many of us are changing a lot of these doctors' perspectives. And, you can't, if somebody was taught a certain way, like it doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. They just haven't been open to the miracles and stuff like our kids. And I mean, some of them are probably not the greatest people, and you'll find that out, and then you find a new doctor. But I would say the vast majority of doctors and medical professionals do actually have their hearts in the right place. They just don't know, they just haven't been exposed to it properly. So that's a very valid point to make is, just find your team, ask the questions, do your research, and
bring your
you're gonna,
research with you, because one of the
yes.
things that a lot of these doctors, they're going to say you're just mom. But I said, it's almost like they stopped learning once they graduated. And some of these people, they've been out of school since the 60s. So they need to brush up on their stuff. Bring your information with you. Bring your research with you. And I'm not talking Wikipedia. It's WebMD. It's Mayo Clinic. It's the National Health Organization. It's all that stuff. You've got to get into it. Have your reading, have your research, give it to them.
Yeah.
There's more and more publications. Like that's
all the
Yeah,
time.
it's gotta
ESA
be
is
like
pushing for.
publications,
Like,
research.
yeah, we're trying to
can't
get
be
publications
Google
out there.
definitions.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of areas that just don't have the research yet. And so, that's what like we're trying to change is getting some of that out there that doesn't have research yet. So the cases like Faith, where, the parent is saying like that's not possible, they can show them like, look, it happened here. Exhibit A. So it's so critical. But those
And
are
that's I will add this one last point. Just because I know that and I know that Kelly's heard it too. It's impossible. There's such a slim chance. There's no chance. And I will tell you that Mia, Emma, Faith, and so many others, their reality is the impossible. I've had doctors say, well, there's a slim chance. And I literally have side-eyed them and have said to them, my child has trisomy 18. My child is mosaic trisomy 18. My child had Wilms tumor at a year and a half. Please don't talk to me about
Your rare
chances.
doesn't mean anything anymore to me.
Literally. So don't, when a doctor says impossible, it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible, especially when you have God on your side. Nothing is impossible. And get yourself a church that you feel like your heart is in, because I will say this, if it hadn't been for my church family, not just my family, But the faith that's in my two churches, I don't know where we would be today, because they're the ones that lifted up the prayers. And I'm telling you, when you walk into that church, you can feel it. And they love Faith. They love her as if like literally she has so many grandmas and papas and great aunts. It's unreal, and a lot of clothes.
Right. That's true.
So don't believe them when they say it's not possible, because it is quite possible. It's our reality.
Oh yeah, been there. I think we all have in some certain ways where they're like, that's like such a small percent. It's not that. And it's like, well, but then they also, like you said, when you bring the research, they start to respect you more and they will listen to you. Because I mean, we actually just went through this with Mia and there was so many things going on at once. It was hard to 100% know what it was, even though everyone kind of had a pretty good idea. But because of that and like our advocacy, like they did still take the VNS into consideration, and like even hospitalized her a second time when it titrated up just to be sure it wasn't causing issues. And I mean, in hindsight, that was all for nothing. But like you said, our kids have all the rarest things happen to them and you just don't know. So you have to trust your gut and, advocate. So we're really glad that we were able to have you on because I feel like, I mean, just hearing Faith's story and her resiliency and your resiliency and, just raising that awareness, about Wilms tumor and hepatoblastoma and, these screenings, and how important they are because
please get your screenings done. If anything, if I could take a megaphone out there and say, get your screenings done.
Yeah.
Well,
get them done.
It's just to show too, like you went for that screening and there was no indications that she had cancer. It was just, you knew it was possible and you did that and you found it. And, your oncologist said it was caught very, very early. Like that's why you do the screening, because when it's not caught early, the outcome would be definitely different. So this episode is amazing, especially, during Cancer Survivors Week. So we're excited to air it at this time. But I do you have any closing remarks or anything? Otherwise, I think we can wrap this up.
I would say the only other thing that I would say is follow your mom's gut, because so many times that has saved Faith. Like you said, with research, and I would have this feeling like I better follow through with this because I have a terrible follow through issue, commitment issues. But that when I can remember, there's certain things that would stick in my brain, and that's that when I'd seen you guys post about the screening abdominal ultrasounds, I remember that sticking in my brain saying, you better get this done. And because so many times you're going to hear, well, it's just a progression of the trisomy 18. No, it's not. And you'll know there's something in your gut that's pulling you that, it can't be, it's not this, or they can't have this issue too. Yeah, they can.
There's always a cause. Like when they say you pass away from trisomy 18, you pass away from something
Cardiac,
that,
respiratory,
yes,
something.
Literally, like when they would say she's gonna die from trisomy 18, I've literally said to the one doctor, because I had enough at that point, and I was like, from what the trisomy 18 already exists in her, it already has done the damage. Okay. The structural defects is what she has. She was already born with it. It's done its thing. Now, if you don't fix the structural damage, yes, she's gonna die. You took an oath that says do no harm, but even you doing nothing is also doing harm. So what is she gonna die from? As simple as that.
Yes. This has been amazing. We're really glad that you were able to come on with us and share your story of faith. I'm just going to show my shirt one more time, her awesome name. But yes, thank you so much, Brandi, for joining us and sharing this amazing story.
Anytime. And if you have any other questions, as parents, I'm very open to questions and answers. I love to educate. You can even check out her Facebook page, His Will, His Way, My Faith, because I literally post everything that I can about her on there.
And we'll tag her account so everyone can easily find you guys too, for anyone that wants to reach out. Because I mean, our hope for doing these podcasts too is people will find them down the line. Like not necessarily, we hope people listen obviously right away, but like a year, 2 years when they're Googling, this will pop up and somebody will reach out to you because they're going to want to talk to you. So we will be sure to tag that account so people can find you. So thank you so much again, Brandi. We greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I thank you for spreading the awareness and the need for this.
Yes, thank you.